Hi guys, Bolts96 here, but the O is a 0, and with a week left before the Premier League finally gets back underway, I've decided to predict the whole Premier League table. Could be an interesting one, and come the end of the season, I will return to this video to find out how good or how bad my predictions were. Alright guys, stick around to find out what I predict for your team this season. 20th, Sheffield United. First up, and we have one of the new boys going straight back down. I just look at the team and I don't feel like it has the strength to survive the Premier League. They have made a few signings so far, all of which are alright, and they could do decently, but they aren't convincing to me, and my mind hasn't changed during the course of the summer so far, which is that I don't think Sheffield United will be able to do it. They are a good side and I do like them, but I just don't think they have what it takes. 19th, Luton Town, the second team to get relegated, and it's the second newcomer. I actually do have a strong feeling that we could have another Bournemouth on our hands, where everyone is predicting that they'll get relegated and perhaps they'll actually surprise us all. It's because of that I really wanted to say that they'll stay up, but I'm just looking at the competition. I think it's going to be too tough for them. I can see them getting some surprise wins and being quite memorable, but consistently over the course of the season, I don't think they have what it takes. But Luton fans, I haven't put you dead last like I think a lot of people will be doing, so hopefully that's some consolation. Perhaps. 18th, Bournemouth, the final team to get relegated. I mentioned their 22-23 season in the last entry, and maybe it is foolish of me to predict them to go down because of that, but I have picked Bournemouth. I actually think they've made a few decent signings, and I think it will be close, but the sacking of O'Neill is a risky one, and it might not pay off for them. Similarly to Luton, I think they may pull off some surprise wins and good performances, but for me, this time around, they are going to go back down. 17th, Nottingham Forest, the first team in this list to achieve survival, and it is going to be Nottingham Forest for me. They've only made a few signings so far, one being a free agent, one being an obligation to buy, and one being a pretty young player, but I do think they are three very positive signings who will give them a little something different. Towards the end of last season, things started to come together for them quite a bit, and I wouldn't be overly surprised if they actually managed a couple places higher up in the league than this. However, I am putting them in 17th because I do still think they have a lot of dead wood to shift, and they could do with one or two more big signings to improve that starting 11. I've said it a couple of times previously, they need to refine the squad and fine tune it, sell 4 or 5 of the deadwood players and bring in a couple of starters, and they should be good. 16th, Everton. Next up, and I have Sean Dyche's men staying in the Premier League again, and ever so slightly improving on last season's fortunes. This is a big summer for them. So far, they've been massively disappointing, only signing one loan and one 38-year-old fullback. Those signings aren't inspiring, and if it wasn't for one major factor, I'd say they were finally going to get relegated after flirting with it over the past couple of seasons, and that factor is Sean Dyche. When he came in, he didn't actually improve them as much as I expected, but having now had a large part of last season and this summer to work with this team, I think he will be able to get his grips on the team and produce a season to match all of his other survival successes with Burnley. 15th, Wolves. Coming in at 15th, and we have Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think they are going to struggle this season massively, and it is only because of their experience of this league that I have them this high. But honestly, if things don't go right, we could see Wolves get relegated this season. They have made a few signings and they are decent, but I'm not really seeing anyone looking at Wolves and acknowledging how bad their squad has been depleted so far. They have lost their 2 midfield stalwarts in Neves and Moutinho, their wing extraordinaire in Adama, star defender Collins, and captain Cody. Not to mention other losses like Costa and Jimenez to their attack, and they've lost their entire spine, barring the goalkeeper. That is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And as I point this out, I'm almost actually talking myself into putting them lower, but I'll trust that their experience and possibly 2 or 3 important signings will keep them in this position. 14th, Burnley, the last of the new boys, finishing a very respectable 14th for me. Out of the 3 of them, I just feel like Burnley are best set up to succeed. They have the most experience in the Premier League, the best squad, and have made the best signings out of the 3 so far, and it is that last one which I think will be the main difference. Burnley they've made a real conscious effort to solidify that back line, and with one of the greatest Premier League defenders ever as their manager, I think they are going to be really hard to beat this season. To add to that, they've made a couple of solid attacking signings and a very nice free transfer in Nathan Redmond, who had an excellent season in Turkey during the 22-23 season. I expect big things from this team. 13th, West Ham. Similarly to Wolves, I do think West Ham will struggle again this year, particularly with the loss of Declan Rice and the fact that they have made no signings so far. However, with all that money in the bank, I do think that they will make a couple of major signings, and I do think with Moyes, they have enough about them to finish in 13th place, one better than they did last season. They do still have a good squad on paper, and if they can make it work together, they should be relatively comfortably safe, but they do need to make signings and quick. 12th, Brentford. Dropping down 3 places from last season, Brentford are going to be my 12th place team for this season. They've made some really nice signings so far, and they clearly have a good team and a very good manager, but the loss of Ivan Toney for the majority of the season is going to be huge. He's so vital to this team, and even when they do sign a striker to fill that spot, which they surely are going to do before the end of the window, there is still going to be a drop-off. I do think they have enough about them as a team to still finish this high up and not get pulled into a relegation battle, but there is going to be a decline for sure. 11th, Fulham. Finishing just outside of the top 10 and a slight drop off from last season, I have Fulham. This pick is heavily dependent on them keeping Mitrovic and Paulinho, who are both rumoured to leave. If either one of them go, I think this team is going to be in trouble, but trusting that neither leave, I think they have a good enough squad to finish this high up this time around. There was a bit of a decline in the last couple of months of last season, but they are a good side and I like their chances. They keep hold of the star players, that is. 10th, Crystal Palace. Breaking into the top 10 this season and swapping places with Fulham, I have Crystal Palace. Their squad has been weakened from last season and they haven't made anywhere near enough signings so far, but with Roy at the helm, they have a good manager to steer the ship comfortably. I would like to see a couple more signings to shore up the squad as they are low on numbers, but I think they have what it takes to ensure a very respectable finish to their season. 9th, Brighton. 9th place now, and we have quite a drop off for Brighton by 3 places and outside of the European spots, but I think it is a realistic pick for them. They've made a few solid signings and the majority of their squad has kept intact so far, but it cannot be ignored how much of a loss McAllister and the very likely transfer out of Caicedo is. If Sanchez gets picked up as well, which he could do, then that will be absolutely devastating to them. I do also think that European football, although a fantastic achievement for them, will negatively impact their domestic league campaign. The demands of playing across so many competitions is going to affect this team negatively, and I think it will cause a drop-off. They are an excellent side, and it is for that reason I haven't predicted anything lower. 9th place and a good run in the Europa League will be a good season for them. 8th, Spurs. Finishing just outside of the European spots, and once again in 8th, I've picked Spurs. They've made some good signings, and if Kane stays, the service he is going to get from Maddison will result in a devastating attacking lineup, but I just think the competition above them is too solid. I don't think that they'll be a million miles away, and it is going to be tight between 5th and 8th in my eyes, but I just think Spurs will be on the wrong side of it. Ultimately, Kane is going to be the difference, isn't he? If he stays and the team do well, they could feasibly achieve Champions League football, but if he goes, they could feasibly drop even lower than 8th. It'll be interesting to see how all of this pans out. 7th, Chelsea. Qualifying for the Europa Conference League, I've gone for Chelsea. I think a lot of people are predicting big things from them this season, and I do agree that there will be a massive improvement from last season. There simply has to be, but I think this season will be quite a transitional one with the new manager, new players, and a lot of the old players leaving. They are going to get some good results and they are going to be in and around it, but I think there will be inconsistencies there, and a 7th place finish, 5 places higher than last season, but no higher than that is what I predict as a result. 6th, Aston Villa. Finishing in 6th place and qualifying for the Europa League, I have a very interesting Aston Villa side. I've spoken of my admiration for Unai Emery before, who I actually think is in the top 5 managers in the league. And when you group that with the brilliant calibre of players that they have brought in so far this window, plus the players already at Villa, I think that's a recipe for success. I am excited to see this team in action, and I really do think that they will finish this high and actually be pushing for Champions League football. 5th, Newcastle, the second team to earn Europa League qualification. I've gone for Newcastle United. This is a slight drop off from last season, but that isn't a slight on them at all. They have a fantastic team, good manager, and all of the funds in the world. They could easily be qualifying for Champions League football, and I do think it will be close, but I just envisage the 4 teams yet to be mentioned as having a better season than them. The battle for Champions League is going to be so close this season, and any of the last 4 entries could make their way into it. But right now, at this moment in time, I'm predicting that they all miss out. 4th, Manchester United. Here we are, the big picks now, the Champions League qualifiers. And first up, Manchester United. They showed at many points last season that they are a good side, an improving one at that, with a very good manager at the helm. The couple of signings so far have been good ones, and they haven't really lost anyone of note other than De Gea. I see no reason why they would have a bad season. The only reason I've dropped them down a place from last season is because of what I think and hope will be the re-emergence of one team in particular, who I'm going to speak about right now. 3rd, Liverpool. Finishing in 3rd place, I've gone for my team, Liverpool. Obviously, last season was not good enough at all, and a big change has been needed, which is still an ongoing process at this stage. There have been a whole host of offloadings, with a couple more rumoured to go, and the couple of major signings of McAllister and Szoboszlai are huge. More needs to be done, which I think it will be, and with a couple of more major new faces, I think Liverpool will have a good season. It is going to be a bit of a transitional one, which is why I don't see them finishing higher than this, and it could mean an even lower finish than 3rd, to be honest, considering those losses. But bearing in mind how finishing only 4 points off Champions League last season was considered horrendous for us, I trust that with these incomings and with Klopp, 3rd place should be achievable. 2nd, Arsenal. 2nd place in the same finish for Arsenal as last season. I think they are going to be so deadly this year, and the signings that they have made so far are very, very exciting indeed. A solid squad who look much improved from last season. They are going to be even better this time around, I can guarantee. They will 100% challenge for the title, but there is one team who I think will pip them to it, and no prizes for guessing who that is. First, Manchester City. Top spot, and of course it is the ever-present Manchester City. So far, they have only made one confirmed signing. The Gvardiol one is still ongoing, and I think the loss of Gundogan will actually be a lot more major than people realise. But at the end of the day, I think they have just too much in the bank. The treble winners have mostly the same squad as last season. There is no reason why there should be a drop-off in the league this time around. The only possibility of any drop-off would be if the players struggle to push themselves after winning 3 trophies last season. But realistically, I don't think Guardiola would allow that. And I'm sorry to say, but I think we'll see them lifting that Premier League trophy yet again this season. And that's it, guys. If you liked what you watched, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you thought of my predictions. And please do check me out across all my other socials. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, where you're watching this video, and Twitch, where I do all of my streaming, all under the same handle, Bolts96, but the O is 0. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.